Discover the incredible truth. After 10 years apart, she returned with an unexpected revelation. Anna's fingers gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white against the familiar backdrop of her childhood town. The streets whispered echoes of laughter and unfulfilled dreams, each pothole a reminder of the childhood she'd left behind. After a decade spent chasing ambitions in lab coats and research grants, she was back in a place where expectations loomed like dark clouds. Her father, a man forged in the fire of hard labor, would see her return as a judgment, a reminder of the dreams he had sacrificed for the family he felt she'd abandoned. As she parked outside what used to be home, the air thickened with tension. The paint on the house had chipped under the weight of neglect, just like their relationship. Memories of her mother's laughter filled the room, a ghost that made Anna's stomach churn. The brilliance of her mother had been stifled, her hidden genius lay buried in old journals in the attic, collecting dust. Anna could feel the warmth of newfound purpose beginning to clash with the cold resentment emanating from her father. Did she dare reveal her discoveries? Journals filled with innovation and medical breakthroughs were supposed to usher in change, yet they were shadows of a life that could have been. In the silence of his garage, dominated by the scent of old tires and regret, she felt his disappointment press like a weight on her ribs. "You think you can just waltz in here and fix what's broken?" He spat, wrench in hand, recalling those bitter mornings when the absence of her laughter chipped away at his pride. "You don't understand how hard it is." Anna's throat tightened. "And you don't understand how hard I've worked for this." Each word felt like an arrow aimed at the walls they'd built around their hearts, the pain-soaked legacies of dreams deferred. Should she confront him? Should she risk unraveling old wounds that had already begun to scab over? She had spent so long forging her path, now standing at a crossroads of loyalty and ambition, of family legacy versus personal dreams. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The ache of doubt expanded. Did she dare publish her mother's innovations, knowing it might boil over? A letter had found its way into her hands, the ink promising interest from a prestigious organization, a chance to bring her mother's vision to life. But with it came precarious conditions that could threaten their fragile family ties. As the tension swirled, Anna could feel the walls closing in. How could she honor her mother's legacy while navigating the hostility that simmered between them? Each step into her past was a step further away from a resolution. She stood, wrestling with an unseen force, heart racing, as if calling back the very dreams of the woman she missed. The ghost of her mother's unrealized potential lingered, demanding acknowledgement, igniting something fierce within Anna. She was caught in a whirlwind of anguish, ready to either fight for recognition or risk everything on a path littered with familial debris. The future loomed dark and uncertain, a chasm filled with unspoken words and bitter regret, forcing Anna to confront the most significant dilemma of her life. Could she reclaim her mother's brilliance, or would all she held dear slip away, caught in the undertow of ambition? As she stared into the abyss of her family's fractured legacy, the question remained: how could she weave the threads of past and present without unraveling everything she held sacred? The tension clawed at her, an insistent reminder that her journey to restore her family's honor had only just begun. Anna lay awake in bed, her mind racing with the weight of her decision. The darkness of night seeped through the thin curtains, mirroring the uncertainty that gripped her heart. Each tick of the clock resonated as a reminder of her obligations to her mother, to her father, and to herself. The prospect of unveiling her mother's genius came with a threatening undercurrent. Relationships had frayed long enough. Could she afford to unravel them entirely in order to rejuvenate a legacy? Over breakfast the next morning, she felt the silence scream louder than words. The clinking of cutlery on porcelain had become a ritual obstacle course. Each bite of toast tasted like lead as she wrestled with her conflicting desires. Her father's eyes bore an intensity that spoke volumes of his expectations, of unfulfilled dreams. "Look at you," he said, voice low as he filled his cup with coffee, "coming home after all this time. Bringing what exactly?" The disdain dripped from his words, coating the air with bitterness. Anna's chest tightened. "I've spent years researching, Dad. The journals, what I found in them, could really help people. There are breakthroughs in those pages." He set the cup down with a sharp clatter. "You think the world cares? You call this help?" Anger radiated from him, ignited by memories of battles fought between love and disappointment. "You're not that teenager anymore thinking she can save the world. You don't even understand what this town means, what your choices cost." The accusation stung, igniting a fierce resolve within her. "And you don't see how far I've come. I'm not just Anna, your daughter. I'm someone who has dedicated herself to honoring a legacy, to making a difference." She felt an unfamiliar power in her voice, an undeniable strength born of her years in the world of research and medicine, where hope and despair danced on constant edges. "Maybe it's not about the recognition," Anna continued, a newfound clarity sharpening her mind. "It's about ensuring that my mother's work doesn't drown in obscurity. It deserves life." This time, it was her father who fell silent, his expression shifting from anger to unexpected contemplation. Was he grappling with the reality of her ambition? Or was it something else, a suppressed longing to see his daughter succeed? After breakfast, Anna retreated to the attic, where sunlight filtered through dusty windows, illuminating forgotten fragments of her mother's genius. The journals lay waiting on the pages, their fibers filled with untold stories of innovative thought processes and creative endeavors. As Anna brushed dust from a cover, she felt a fizzling energy course through her veins. What would it take to restore not only her mother's legacy, but her family's fractured connection? Could she allow that energy to fuel her ambitions, to advocate for her mother's ideas without alienating her father? She flipped through the pages, words dancing before her eyes like fireflies in the night. Ideas sparked, perhaps a synthesis of her mother's work and the needs of modern medicine could yield cooperative opportunities. Could she think beyond acknowledgement, instead envisioning collaboration? Days stretched into tense contemplation, and the letter from the prestigious organization sat heavy in her inbox, a weight almost unbearable. It served as a catalyst for her decisions, amplifying both fear and hope in equal measure. Was she ready to venture into this unknown terrain? Could pitching her mother's work be the bridge that healed their rift, or would it ignite further conflict? The doorbell rang, pulling her from her spiraling thoughts. As she opened the door, an unexpected visitor stood there, a representative from the organization, an unforeseen opportunity to confront everything she had wrestled with in solitude. The time had come to face her fears, but would she walk through that threshold accompanied by her past, or abandon it to seize a future? Anna's heart raced as she stood before the representative, a polished clipboard for company, their confident posture mirroring the resolve Anna was desperate to embody. She forced herself to breathe, grounding herself in the moment. This wasn't simply a stranger, it was a gateway. "Ms. Wren, thank you for meeting with me on such short notice," the representative said, offering a firm handshake. "I've been looking forward to discussing your mother's work." The mention of her mother sent a thrill through her. This could be at the moment she could unveil the brilliance she had safeguarded through years of struggle. But anxiety flickered beneath her determination. Could she present her mother's ideas adequately? Would they resonate as deeply with others as they did with her? "Of course, I'm eager to share what I've uncovered," Anna replied, her voice steady despite the turbulence roiling inside. They sat across from one another, and the representative's keen gaze encouraged her, yet it also ignited a gnawing fear. She could feel her father's skepticism echoing in the back of her mind. "Let's start with an overview of the journals," the representative prompted, pen hovering over paper. Anna hesitated, then began recounting her mother's findings, her passion bubbling to the surface. Each detail sparked life into the room, the creative solutions and rigorous analyses woven seamlessly together. Speaking about her mother's ideas, their potential to transform healthcare lightened her spirit. Optimism unfurled within her, yet still a shadow loomed. "What you've described is fascinating," the representative said, jotting down notes. "But let us address the elephant in the room. You mentioned family dynamics. How do you intend to navigate the history tied to these concepts? The tension could either offer depth or, perhaps, it may hinder our efforts." The question landed like a weighty stone. How could she clarify the complexities of her relationship with her father, while also emphasizing her commitment to her mother's legacy? Here was an unexpected obstacle, forcing her to confront not just the content of her proposals, but the context within which they existed. "I believe the healing is necessary," she replied, searching for strength in her words. "It's not solely about the ideas, it's about restoring faith in what my mother stood for and bridging the divide in our family." She felt her words carrying a truth, a conviction she hadn't grasped fully until that moment. "This isn't just my pursuit, but an opportunity to reconnect." The representative's expression softened. "If you're prepared to embrace that complexity, it could significantly add to your proposals. Your narrative, your willingness to foster that connection might resonate with our investors." As their conversation deepened, Anna discovered a new facet of her own potential. She could leverage the struggles she faced as a valuable narrative tool, one capable of drawing others together, a bridge rather than a barrier. The anxiety within transformed into a channel for connection, crafting a narrative of resilience arising from fractured relationships. By the time they concluded, Anna felt emboldened, her confidence fortified by the promise of possibilities. The representative offered to follow up soon with next steps, a vital gesture that signified acknowledgement and support. As she closed the door after the meeting, a sense of purpose surged within her. Yet, the prospect of discussing this triumph with her father appeared daunting. Would he see her determination as strength or as a betrayal? Would he accept the opportunity she had seized, or would it only fuel the fire of his resentment? Feeling the weight of her next challenge settling on her shoulders, Anna recalled her mother's words about grappling with fear and emotion meant to engulf, but instead, a foe that must be faced. The stakes had risen, and although clarity was emerging, she still stood at the edge of a precipice. What would become of her father's legacy now that hers had begun to intertwine with it? How could she prepare for a confrontation that might reshape everything she had fought for? With resolve, Anna took a deep breath and retrieved her phone. It was time to call her father. But it also sparked a new glimmer of uncertainty. What would he say? The phone felt heavy in Anna's hand, a tangible embodiment of the emotional weight she carried. She had spent years crafting a sense of purpose tied to her mother's legacy, yet in this moment, the dread of familial conflict loomed larger than any professional triumph she had just achieved. Tension coiled in her stomach as she contemplated dialing the number she knew by heart but had avoided for so long. After what felt like an eternity, she pressed the call button. The phone rang ominously, each tone an echo of her unease. She remembered the countless nights she had rehearsed this very conversation in her mind, each scenario playing out with varying degrees of warmth and coldness. What would her father have to say? Would they find common ground or clash once more? "Hello?" came his voice, gruff yet familiar. The warmth of recognition collided with the chill of apprehension. "Dad, it's Anna," she said, trying to inject a sense of casualness into her tone, but it cracked under the weight of her emotions. "Anna." There was a pause, as if he were reassessing her presence in his life. "What do you need?" Deep breath. "I wanted to talk about Mom's journals. I had a meeting today about them." As she spoke, she sensed a ripple, the air shifting, possibilities opening between them. She recounted the meeting, the representative's notes, the interest generated by her mother's work, framing it all through the lens of hope and healing. Each word felt like a step toward a fragile truce, a path she had yearned to explore. "I think we could use this as a way to reconnect," she said, summoning courage. "It's not just about her ideas. It's about us, finding a way to bridge what's been broken." For a span of silence, the connection buzzed, and Anna's heart pounded in her ears. Finally, her father's voice cut through the stillness. "You think you can just waltz in and talk about reconnecting after years of silence? You serious? You don't know the pain that Dad, she interrupted, her heart racing with both desperation and resolve. This is exactly why we need to talk. This isn't just an opportunity for me. It's a chance for both of us to explore what Mom's work meant to her and what it could mean for us. Meaningless, he snapped back. You don't understand, Anna. The weight of anger rolled through the line, and his resentment was palpable. Yet beneath it, the tremors of vulnerability danced an invitation to step deeper into this moment of confrontation. I do understand. I've been wounded too, she asserted, her voice gaining strength. I lost her just like you did. But I believe we can reclaim her legacy, and in doing so, reclaim part of ourselves. We owe her that much, don't we? His breath caught, and the line went heavy with the desperation of unspoken hurt. I don't trust your intentions, he finally replied. You're chasing something that I'm not just chasing something, she replied, her determination seeping into her voice. I'm trying to build something. I want to include you in this, but it will require trust and honesty from both of us. We can't keep allowing fear and resentment to dictate our lives. There was another pause, and she felt herself hold her breath. Fine, he said slowly. But trust is earned. She could feel the crack in his wall, the shifting of his rigid stance, as if he teetered on the edge of acceptance. Though it was a small victory, it was the first bit of ground she had reclaimed in their fractured relationship. I'll be working on these proposals, and I would love for us to discuss them together, she proposed, allowing a hint of hope to filter into her tone. We could meet this weekend. Maybe, he replied. The reluctance in his voice loomed a barrier that could either shield or separate them further. After they hung up, Anna sat on her bed, a whirlwind of thoughts whirling in her mind. She had crossed an invisible line, leaving behind the weight of uncertainty. Though she had ignited a fragile spark of dialogue, it was merely the beginning. Still, she understood that attending to their relationship was as critical as any professional undertaking. A new thread of purpose wove itself through her life, intertwining her personal and professional aspirations into a singular mission. The stakes felt impossibly high, but for the first time, Anna sensed an ember of trust flickering within her father. Would she nurture it, or would it extinguish under the pressures of their history? As she steeled herself for the coming days, Anna felt a new challenge arise within her. Could she transform the prospect of this co-authored legacy into a bridge strong enough to withstand the weight of their past? And in the midst of that reflective period, an unexpected message popped up on her phone, stirring a fresh wave of uncertainty. An email from the representative outlining the next steps, indicating that interest had been piqued beyond what she anticipated. She paused, a rush of anticipation mingling with apprehension. What could this new opportunity mean for her legacy and for her family? Anna's hands trembled slightly as she stared down at the email, thoughts racing through her mind. The representative's words jumped off the screen, promising a collaboration that could elevate her mother's work into prominence, yet each sentence felt laced with the potential of greater scrutiny. What did this increased interest imply? Would it draw her father closer, or push him further away? She took a deep breath, reminding herself that these concerns paled in comparison to the risk she had already taken by reaching out to him. The emotional labyrinth she had begun interpreting was complex and fraught with danger, yet there was a flicker of courage igniting in her core. Fueled by this new urgency, Anna decided it was time to establish a structured plan not merely to respond to professional inquiries, but to weave her evolving relationship into the narrative she was crafting about her mother's work. Sitting at her desk, she set to work. Ideas poured out, themes from her mother's journals, the intricate connections between loss and creation, the possibility of a seminar to bridge psychology and art. Each note she wrote resonated with purpose, reminding her of the light her mother had poured into her teachings and how it had touched lives. But each stroke of her pen began to feel heavier as her thoughts danced back to her father's past objections, unrelenting in their ability to cloud her aspirations. What if he resented her again, viewed her ambitions as a betrayal of their shared grief? The hours slipped by, and the weight of impending expectations bore down on her, forcing her to confront her growing anxiety. Deep down, Anna questioned whether she possessed the skills necessary to command the gravity of their family's legacy while simultaneously nurturing her outrageously fragile relationship with her father. As night set in, the comforting shadows of her room also brought forth a realization: fear should not dictate her actions. Drawing in strength, she took one last look at her drafts before folding them away, making a decision that felt almost instinctual. The next day, fueled by a surge of resolve, she composed 2 emails, one to the representative and a second, steely in its conviction, to her father. In the latter, she articulated her plans for the proposal, emphasizing the connective tissue of family and shared history that she sought to explore through her mother's work. "This isn't about profit," she penned fervently. "It's about healing, understanding, and honoring the legacy of a woman who spent her life bringing light into dark places." Each word became a brick in her construction of a bridge. Without hesitation, she pressed send, her pulse racing as she wrestled with uncertainty once more. The following hours felt interminable, a quiet tension suffusing the air around her. Each notification from her phone became a jolt of electricity, the potential of communication carrying immense weight. Would her father appreciate her invitation, or would anger flare anew at the unbidden intrusion into his life? Then it came, a familiar notification, a simple ping that conveyed more than the content of the message. It bore the pulse of their shared history, raw with unminced words and open wounds. As she opened the email, Anna could feel her heart withering and blooming simultaneously. Her father's response encapsulated both his brusqueness and an unmistakable thread of hope. "Let's discuss it this weekend," he wrote, his words sharp yet cautiously softened by the absence of outright rejection. "We'll see if your idea is worth pursuing." A weak smile crept across Anna's lips. She sensed it. The ember of trust had sparked into something more substantial. But a question loomed, an unanswered challenge. Would this new phase in their dialogue bring them the closure they both so desperately needed, or would it claw open the wounds of the past even wider? With her own thoughts spiraling, Anna realized the stakes were escalating. This was not simply a matter of professional validation or connection through legacy, it was a moment wrapped in potential transformation. As the countdown to the weekend began, she questioned if she was ready for the next confrontation. Perhaps uncovering deeper connections through her mother's work would also unearth deeper truths about herself and her father. The slate was still raw, and she needed assurance that her commitment to move forward wouldn't shatter their fragile foundation. The moments of reckoning loomed, and in that breath of anticipation, she felt the dormant ache of truth stirring once more. Could facing her father yield revelations that would alter the course of not only their relationship but her own identity as well? As the weekend approached, Anna's heart raced with an unsettling mix of anticipation and dread. Each tick of the clock reverberated in her mind, the slow passage of time amplifying her worries. How could a simple conversation unravel the 10 years of distance between her and her father? The gravity of the moment felt as heavy as the air in her path, suffocating yet electrifying. Saturday dawned with a reluctant sun, its rays filtering in through the window, illuminating her cluttered desk, a battlefield of scattered notes and half-formed ideas. That morning, the usual embrace of routine felt foreign. Anna poured coffee into a chipped mug, the bitter taste grounding her amidst swirling thoughts. She needed clarity. She needed to prepare for the confrontation that could well define her future, for herself and for their shared legacy. Her fingers brushed over her mother's journals, the ink whispering stories of wisdom and growth that had come from battling her own demons. Anna flipped through the pages, searching for guidance. Every line she reread about understanding pain and channeling it through art spurred her own thoughts like a frayed thread longing to be rewoven. Turning loss into creation wasn't merely her mother's legacy, it was Anna's path toward understanding her complex relationship with her father. Questions emerged like ghosts from the pages. How could she ensure they didn't revert to old patterns of anger and hurt? How could she express the importance of healing not just through art, but through their shared history? Her breath caught as she sketched thoughts into her notebook, stories of resilience, courage, and the uncomfortable truths they both needed to face. As noon approached, Anna's resolve solidified into a plan. It wasn't enough to simply present her ideas. She had to open herself up, push beyond her comfort zone, and acknowledge the cracks in their relationship. How could she activate that flicker of hope he had shown in his email? She would suggest transparency, the need for honesty that had been evaded for far too long. When the hour finally arrived, she sat in front of the mirror, willing herself to breathe deeply. Her appearance reflected the inner turmoil, hair drawn back in a messy bun, clothes somewhat rumpled, a facade of casualness hiding her unease. But this would not be about appearances, it would be about authenticity. She had to walk into the conversation naked, stripped of pretense and layered defenses. At the designated meeting place, a quiet cafe nestled in the heart of the city, Anna arrived early, the familiar swirl of scents overwhelming her senses. The clinking of cutlery and soft murmurs of conversation provided an odd comfort. Sitting at a corner table, she imagined the scene unfolding before her, a confrontation laced with both trepidation and yearning. When her father arrived, his posture was rigid, a reflection of his guarded nature. They exchanged awkward pleasantries, the tension palpable. She noticed the deep lines etched into his face, evidencing years of struggle and sorrow. As they settled into their seats, the weight of unspoken words hung heavily in the air. Anna took a deep breath, her heart racing, and dove into the conversation. "Dad," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "I want to talk about Mom and her work. It brought us so much joy, but it also uncovered our pain. I think we can both learn from it." For a heartbeat, the world around them faded. It was just the two of them, suspended on the brink of discovery. Each word she spoke came from the depths of her being, scraping away the protective layers, and she could see her father's eyes faltering, caught between skepticism and an undeniable flicker of interest. But just as she braced for a breakthrough, his expression shifted. A wall rose behind his eyes, and with it came the image of their unresolved past, predictable yet painful. "Why now, Anna?" he questioned, his voice low, tinged with suspicion. "Why approach this again after all this time?" With a pang echoing in her chest, she internalized the reductive dismissal that could unravel the fragile bond they had just begun to construct. In that moment, Anna realized this conversation was not the end, it was a gateway. A potential pivot point if she could turn their conversation, allow her vulnerability to seep into the exchange without fear of rejection. And there it was, that critical realization fluttered within her. Perhaps the hardest truths held the potential for transformative healing. Reflecting on her mother's lessons, she rehearsed the next words in her mind, intent on encapsulating not just her own emotions, but on offering him an invitation to explore the pain they both had buried. What did their legacy mean if not an opportunity for understanding? The moment felt ripe with possibility, yet it hung precariously in the balance, ready to tip toward clarity or chaos. Just as she prepared to speak, holding her breath against the tide of uncertainty, a server arrived at their table, shattering the tension. His interruption brought a brief respite, yet Anna understood these moments could be pivotal. How they navigated distractions might influence their upcoming exchange. As she regained her composure amidst the chaos, she thought, what next? Would her father hear her? Would she glimpse the part of him that mirrored her own fight for understanding? The conversation was hanging by a thread, fragile yet full of potential. Anna's thoughts spiraled. This engagement could lead to rekindling their bond or unearthing more pain than she could bear. Could she summon the courage to fully step forward and guide them into the heart of what they both needed to confront? The stakes seemed almost insurmountable. But then again, maybe that was the first step toward genuine connection. Anna's mind raced, scrambling to pull together her thoughts as the server departed, leaving behind a lingering silence that felt deafening. She realized she had to seize this moment, to catapult them past the stagnant waters of their past grievances. "Because it feels too late," she finally said, the words coming out sharper than she intended. "It wasn't easy reaching out, but I realized we can't just keep pretending everything is fine." Her father's shoulders stiffened, eyes narrowing. That defensive posture was an old familiar pattern, the same stance that had created a chasm between them for so long. But today, her resolve wasn't going to waver. Inspired by her mother's journals, she pressed on. After losing Mom, I learned we both have to grapple with our pain together. If we don't talk about it, it will consume us. The silence that followed was thick with hesitation. For a fleeting moment, she thought he might respond with anger or retreat into a shell of silence. But instead, she saw his hands tremble slightly on the wooden table, the fingers fidgeting like he was trying to unravel his own tightly wound thoughts. If you think talking about her will change anything, he began, but Anna caught the wavering in his voice. I know it won't magically repair everything, but we owe it to her and to ourselves to try. We can create something meaningful from all that has happened. The urgency in her voice surprised even her, a raw conviction surging through her veins. It wasn't just about reviving a limp family connection, it was about evolving into something new together. What do you even want from this conversation? He finally asked, his tone still edged with skepticism. His words hung in the air, a challenge as well as a question. Without thinking, Anna reached for the one thing she had prepared, the sketch she had worked on the week before, a portrayal of her mother's vibrant spirit tangled in sorrow. I want to share this with you. It's my interpretation of Mom's work, how I see it impacting our lives. It blends joy and pain, just like what we are going through. She slid the drawing across the table, her heart racing as she did so. He hesitated, glancing at the paper, then back at her. You think I want to talk about her now? After all this time? Maybe not just her but us. Our healing. It felt like a gamble, but to build this bridge, she had to take risks. Each of their separate griefs screamed for acknowledgement. At first, he remained still, his gaze fixated on the drawing's nonverbal complexities. Anna watched him wrestle with the realities she pushed forward, the shadows of their past looming behind him. The air morphed tense again as she awaited his reaction. Finally, he grasped the paper, a slow shudder escaping him. I don't know if I can do this. His voice quavered, a tiny crack appeared in the fortress he'd built around himself. You can. It's not about perfection, it's about doing something together. Let us just talk. Each word slipped out more as a plea than a command, urging him to choose openness over defensive reticence. But then, moments before he could respond, a notification on his phone chimed loudly, fracturing the delicate cocoon they had spun around their conversation. Her father glanced down, a flicker of irritation crossing his features, but he swiftly muted it. A moment of distraction connected them even more in their shared frustration, reminding Anna that external forces had always conspired to keep them apart. As he placed the phone back onto the table, this brief interruption morphed into an opportunity, a reminder that both could choose to reclaim their focus on the dialogue unfolding. Can we try again? Anna asked, leaning forward. Can we just let the noise of the world fade and focus on our truth? But instead of a verbal answer, her father's face transformed, his jaw tightening as emotions danced behind his eyes. It was a moment loaded with potential, but also hesitation, not just about their past, but the terrifying possibility of healing their fragmented relationship. Anna braced for the response, the pit of her stomach nodding. Would he take her hand and walk with her toward understanding? Or would he retreat into the shadows of old wounds once again, sealing her attempt to commune in vulnerability? The silence deepened, wrapping around them, as an undeniable truth tugged at Anna's heart. They needed to confront what lay between them, or they risked losing their last chance to rebuild. And in her chest, she felt it, the question that loomed larger than both of them. Could they really step into the light of understanding? Or were they destined to remain caught in the darkness of their past? As Anna sat across from her father, the stagnant weight of unresolved emotions threatened to swallow them whole. She could feel the frantic beating of her heart competing with the silence, each pulse urging her to push further, to break through the barriers they had constructed over the years. In that moment, the resolve she had summoned dimmed, replaced with a desperate longing for connection. Her father finally looked up, the tremor in his hands now visible. Why now, Anna? He asked, his voice thick with mistrust and pain. After everything that has happened, you want to reopen old wounds? It's because of those wounds that we need to talk, Anna replied, channeling her fear into a firm determination. You've buried your grief, I've buried mine. We can't keep treading water, Dad. At the sound of Dad, a flicker of something more tender crossed his features, but it faded as quickly as it appeared. Maybe I'm comfortable where I am. Maybe the past is best left untouched. He leaned back, folding his arms across his chest, yet she sensed a crack in his rigidity, a crack she could exploit if she just held steady. The drawing sat between them like a stubborn reminder of unclaimed grief, a symbol of their lost connection. Mom wanted us to be okay. This isn't okay, Dad, Anna said, her voice steady now, emboldened by the stakes of their conversation. You might think that avoiding it protects you, but it's doing the opposite. I see how it eats at you, how it eats at me. He stared at her, the flickering candlelight illuminating the stark lines of his face. For a fleeting moment, Anna thought he might engage with her, that the veils he had expertly draped over his emotions might finally unravel. But fear bubbled beneath the surface, thick and unyielding. This isn't going to change anything, he murmured, glancing down again. I've learned to cope. I don't need to dissect it. But what if doing that could lead us to something else? Her heart raced with this renewed hope. What if we could reclaim the memories, even the painful ones, and bind them into something that could strengthen us? For the first time, she noticed the hints of tears pooling in his eyes, yet he quickly blinked them away. I don't want to feel that hurt again, Anna. It's easier to forget. Is it easier? Or is it just easier to pretend? She countered, a newfound assertiveness emerging with every word. Having the conversations might be messy, but they're necessary for us. We owe Mom that much, don't we? She could tell the walls he had built were being tested. It wasn't easy for him to confront the past even for himself. But something shifted in that moment of confrontation, a small chink in his emotional armor, an opening for an honest dialogue. Then let us start there, he finally said, his voice quieter, as if the admission itself required fortitude. What do you want to talk about? Her heart swelled at that invitation, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. The questions she had bottled inside surged forth. Maybe we can begin by sharing our memories of her. What do you remember that feels joyful? For each moment they spent exploring and sharing the vivid colors of their joint past, Anna sensed the threads of connection tightening, pulling them weary but determined toward a shared narrative they could begin to reconstruct. As the conversation flowed, something deeper began to unfurl. With every shared moment, buried feelings began to dig their way to the surface, and Anna grew more convinced that understanding lay just within reach. But just as they started to peel back the layers, her phone vibrated on the table. The screen lit up with a notification flashing a name she hadn't seen in years. Liam, her childhood friend, the very first love who had walked out of her life when life got too complicated, too emotional. Suddenly, the air became charged with an electric tension that threatened to redirect the path of their conversation. Would she choose to cling to these personal revelations, or would the pull of her past reorient her focus, potentially disrupting the fragile connection they had begun to forge? As she reached for her phone, Anna held her breath, poised at a precipice between the old and the new. Would she ignore the call and dive deeper into this moment with her father, or would she risk their budding reconciliation for the sake of curiosity about what her past held? As Anna's fingers hovered over her phone, her heart raced, both excitement and dread coiling tightly in her chest. She glanced at her father. His expression had shifted from tenuous openness to a guarded resolve. The charged air was thicker now, as if the very essence of their conversation hung precariously in the balance, balanced on the steel thread of an unanswered question. Would she surrender to the temptation of her past or nurture the fragile connection growing before her? With a deep breath, Anna accepted the call but didn't answer immediately. The screen lit up, glowing with memories from a simpler time, times fraught with innocence, laughter, and eventual heartbreak. Each second stretched out like an eternity as she wrestled with the possibilities. Liam had been a cornerstone of her childhood, bright, ambitious, and endlessly curious. But when their lives had drastically diverged, so had their futures. Is it him? Her father asked, breaking the silence that had wrapped around them like a shroud. The disbelief in his voice struck her with a dual pang of nostalgia and regret. Yes, she admitted, keeping her gaze on the phone while fighting the urge to answer. It's been years. Why no? After everything? He was clutching the table tightly, pushing down emotions that spat back like boiling water. Taking a moment, Anna shifted her gaze away from the screen and back to her father, now a mix of pain and apprehension etched across his features. In this moment with you, I see the kind of uncertainty I felt when he left. I can't keep holding onto these pieces of my past while trying to rebuild myself here with you. Maybe this is an opportunity to confront that too. Her father frowned, the old familiar lines deepening. You shouldn't need him. We're reconnecting. We finally have a chance at something real. But is it anything if I've left a part of myself unresolved? If I cut him off entirely, I might just be burying feelings again, just like you. The duality of her emotions collided. Me talking to him doesn't mean letting go of us. The silence grew again, the tension palpable. Anna's hand trembled slightly as she accepted the call, hoping the air wouldn't rupture in disappointment. Liam? She finally spoke. It's been a long time. The warmth that greeted her on the other end of the line was both comforting and unsettling. Anna, I know it's unexpected. I need to talk to you. There's something important to share. Panic threaded through her veins. The urgency in his voice hinted at a revelation she felt unprepared to face. Her gaze flicked back to her father, who was now visibly restless, battling between concern for her well-being and the emerging hope of reconciliation. Can it wait? She asked, torn. I'm in the middle of something important, too. Please, Anna. Just give me a few minutes. His imploring tone tugged at her heart. Do you really want to deal with this now? Her father interjected, the tightness in his voice echoing his unease. What can he possibly have to say that's worth disrupting this moment? It was a pivotal choice, and Anna could feel the weight of her decision, a pivot between the unconditional love now beginning to blossom with her father and the shadowy echoes of a love that had once brought her both joy and pain. In a surge of determination, her next words felt as if they could set the course not only for her relationship with Liam, but could also reshape her connection with her father. I need to hear him out. I have to know. As she pressed the phone closer to her ear, Anna braced for what Liam had to reveal, aware that even a fleeting moment could reshape their reality. But the undercurrent was undeniable. The life changes she had faced with her father might not only interweave with her past, but could uncover tangled threads of her present, destinies intertwining in ways she couldn't yet fathom. What could he say that could change anything? Her father asked, his eyes searching for clarity amidst the storm of emotions. Anna took a steadying breath, feeling the truth of her choice settling within her. Perhaps the revelation that Liam brought forth could help her further undertake the journey not just back to her past, but deeper into who she needed to become. Maybe, she whispered, her heart racing as she prepared to unlock the layers of her life that she had only begun to touch. It's not just about change, Dad. Maybe it's about understanding. A pause cascaded through the room, the air thick with the unresolved anxiety of a journey still in its infancy. Liam's voice broke the silence again, punctuating the air with a rushed sense of urgency. Anna, I need to tell you what's been happening. It's about your mother. The sudden mention of her mother set off a ripple of dread and anticipation. What revelation belonged to the past? What truth would she uncover that could bind her fragmented world together? As anticipation swelled in her chest, Anna felt the weight of her journey intensifying, aware she was teetering on the edge of illumination and elaboration of truths that might change everything just as they were beginning to heal. Anna sat across from her father in their quiet cafe, breaths held, hearts on the line. They had embarked on a challenging journey, exchanging shadows of pain and glimmers of understanding. Yet, with Liam's voice echoing her mother's name, the atmosphere shifted once more. This was it, the pivotal moment of reckoning between their past and present. What about my mother? She prompted, caught between dread and anticipation. Liam's voice trembled with urgency. I need you to know that before she passed, she tried to reach out. She had something important to tell you, something about the work and how it could change everything. The revelation landed like a weighty stone in the air, suspending time. Anna's mind darted back to the journals, the legacy of her mother. Was there a hidden truth buried within those pages that could bind her family together? Anna? Liam's voice broke through her thoughts. You have to understand. She believed in your potential, and she wanted you to carry her vision forward. Turning towards her father, Anna found him momentarily entranced, the tension in his shoulders softening. Perhaps this was not just a moment for her to confront her past, but an opportunity for him to realize just how much his wife had believed in Anna's capacity. "What do you know?" Anna pressed, urgency rising in her tone. "Tell me everything." There were plans, Anna. Plans for a project that unites her innovations with current medical practices. They were meant to heal people, maybe even heal you both, he replied. A surge of hope ignited in her. This was the intersection of ambition and healing they both needed. Anna shot a glance at her father, searching for any signs of connection, a flicker of acknowledgement. This could be our chance. Working together in Mama's spirit could bring us back to what really matters. Yet doubt began to creep back from her father's stillness. Your mother wanted to protect you. She didn't want to burden you with her dreams, he countered, voice laced with unyielding caution. Maybe she wanted us to face the truth together, Anna implored, her resolve tightening. Maybe confronting her legacy can heal not just the innovation she left behind, but us as well. The weight of the moment pressed heavily upon them. She watched as her father's brow crinkled in thought, the walls separating them beginning to creak. "You think her ideas are enough to reconcile?" he asked, voice low but edged with curiosity. "What if they are? What if carrying them forth could honor her memory and lead us again to one another?" Anna replied, driven by the strength of conviction. For a moment, silence hung thick, stretching into a fragile bond of awareness. Could this moment transform their relationship? Their combined goals of honoring her mother, whilst embracing the complexities of their connection, felt almost tangible. An unexpected flicker of hope sparked in her father's eyes. "We could try. If you're serious about this, we could look through her old journals together. It's worth exploring." As they both sat, moved beyond words, Anna felt a solid weight lift off her chest. Clarity surged through her. They were on the brink of something profound. The uncertainty that once dominated their relationship began to shimmer with the promise of redemption and renewal. "Then let us start today." "Together," Anna suggested. "Yes, together," her father echoed, a slight smile beginning to tug at the corners of his mouth. As they prepared to leave the cafe, Anna's phone buzzed, and she caught Liam's voice again. "Anna, can we meet to go over everything? There's so much more you need to know." "Absolutely," she replied, a feeling of urgency juxtaposed with a gratifying sense of momentum. She would take this path not just as a daughter honoring her mother's legacy, but also as a catalyst for mending their familial ties. As they exited the cafe, Anna glanced at her father, a renewed light glowing in his eyes. "We will heal, Dad. Together." Finally, they stood on the precipice of a new beginning, ready to explore the intricate lines of their shared history, while forging a brighter path informed by love and understanding. In that defining moment, Anna had not only conquered her fears, but also embraced her family's past, crafting a future rich with the potential of hope and healing. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you and make you reflect on your own journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm so we can keep bringing powerful content to your feed. Comment below with your reactions, theories, and what this ending means to you. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this impactful story of personal growth and familial resolution.